Are you part of the 3%? This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Group. It's Wednesday, April 14th, and that 3% that we teased you with refers to a story that John and I will cover in our final segment after the break in our Shop Talk segment, which refers to 12 Social Security questions that only 3% of the population can answer correctly. So John and I will cover those 12 questions in our Shop Talk segment. But before that, we'll do a little catching up, and then we do our Caught Our Eye segment, which are stories that John and I share. Then we'll talk about a new release from our friends at Deep Discount, cover our business birthday, and then do our Shop Talk. And John, you know what today is, April 14th? Do you know what today is?
Is it some strange holiday? Bastille? No.
Well, it's a huge holiday for you and I, but I didn't know it. It popped up on my calendar, and I kind of scratched my head about it, and I probably should have done more work for it, but I'm just wondering if April 14th means anything to you and I particularly.
Well, is it possibly the first time we recorded a show at XM?
Well, it popped up on my calendar that today is Triberry Productions' birthday.
Yeah, this is when we incorporated, April 14th of yeah, exactly.
So what year? But but it had conflicting dates. Is it 13 years, 14 years? Was it 07? Was it 08? Do you remember?
I think it was actually it was 09. We started the business a little earlier. Yeah. But I think by the time we got around to doing the paperwork and having everything go back and forth, it was in fact 09.
Oh, okay. So it's well, then we're younger than we thought. So Triberry Productions, that's who produces the show. But John and I have a consulting business. If anyone's out there looking for any help, we'll do a one-time fee.
Send them to the website, Tim.
Right. It's triberry.co. It's not a mistake. It's triberry.co. And you'll find the work there that John and I have done. We just finished a big cannabis project out in Colorado where the owners decided they wanted to be the luxury of cannabis.
The Hermes, the Chanel, something like that.
The Polo a pot is what we came up with, but that's not exactly what happened. But that was our working, our internal deal. But it's a nice dispensary out there if you happen to be in Aspen, Colorado.
It's quite unique. Yeah.
Check out Del Winnie. But John, in his brilliance, we were handed a logo and developed everything around it. So, but that's the kind of work we do for branding and marketing. So happy birthday, Triberry. I should have brought a cake.
You should have brought a cake.
When we can be together
right?
again. We're going on a year and a month that we've not even seen each other, other than through this the magic of the Zoom or the Skype or the internet, right?
Tim, it is really weird. It has been over a year since we had our last lunch at the TikTok Diner. I've been bringing this up since we're in the anniversary of the beginning of the event. On another note, the John Boehner book has finally dropped. We've been hearing clips from it and seeing pieces of it for a while. This is one of the few books I believe I will actually buy as an audiobook because I want to hear him read it. Do you agree, or would you just do the...
Well, I thought the same thing. You know why? Because I think he'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
He has no what's the word? No fucks to give, right? I mean, he's going to be honest. Right?
It's true. I think. Well, on the CBS this morning the other day, they had him on, and they had a clip where he talked about the crazies, aka the Tea Party, and they were all led by one super crazy who wasn't even a member of the House, aka Ted Cruz. And when they interviewed him, he's like, "Look, I have nothing. These are grandstanders. They don't come to Washington to do business. They want media hits. They think it's a big show." He said, "I came here to do things for people and to change things," and I think that's where we're at right now, right?
Yeah, I was disappointed in President Obama's book. I was hoping he would be a bit more pointed.
Forthcoming.
Right. In true to form, he was very guarded and respectful and probably reserved.
Yeah.
More so than he could be, because we know that he was treated not well. Starting off with, you weren't even born here sort of stuff, being an other. And I think he always kind of rose above it. But I was hoping he'd be a little more down and dirty as well about what really transpired or what went on. I think Boehner will be, and he has been so far. At least that's what they've said. But I'm usually surprised with some of these memoirs that people do not kind of just go in and say, here's what really happened, and lay it all out there. I'm trying to think of one recently where somebody actually did do that. Even Michelle Obama's book, she was very much.
That's a great point. I'm trying to think of someone who was like, blow the barn doors off, here's what really happened. I can't think of a corporate memoir, and I'm trying to think of a political one. I'm sure people that are listening probably are screaming at their podcast players right now saying, here's the book you need to do. Hey, if you have a suggestion for a barn door that's been blown off by someone, we love that stuff. So it's letters@focusgroupradio.com.
When my Subaru book comes out, of course, it'll be old news by then. But
I'm not so sure. When Tim was cleaning up some stuff and came across letters that he had received at Subaru when we were doing our LGBT campaign, and some of them, you've never shared a lot of them with me. I know that I've only seen glimpses of them, but some of them really made my eyebrows stand up. I'm like, wow, because that could have been written I think some of them could have been written yesterday or 20 years ago. Take your pick.
Yeah, nasty.
Mm-hmm.
They're nasty letters today, nasty letters then, nasty letters 30 years ago, nasty letters 50 years ago. And you and I have said this. It's still okay to discriminate against LGBTQ people. Look what's happening right now in state legislatures about trans youth.
Mm-hmm. So medical access, the whole bit. Yeah.
So that's what happened. So, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
What caught my eye was something designed specifically for you because, well, you have very strong opinions about grooming, and I specifically about you
should have just seen your face.
They're good.
Do that screen grab.
They're good. They're good opinions, especially when it comes to men and sandals and how to take care of their feet. But this one, I think, is going to surprise you. So. The headline reads, "Woman with the world's longest nails cuts them after nearly 30 years."
Ugh.
Do you see the picture?
That's disgusting.
They curve. Well, the article's very short, so I'm going to do everybody the favor of reading it. The Texan who had the world's longest nails grown by a woman can finally open a door without fear of cutting them. Ayanna Williams of Houston broke the Guinness World Record for the world's longest fingernails in 2017 when they measured nearly 19 feet long, folks. 19 feet. Think about that. It took her more than 2 bottles of nail polish and 20 hours to do her manicure then. Before getting them cut over the weekend, she got one final measurement, 24 feet, 0.7 inches. The manicure that day took 4 bottles of nail polish over the course of a few days. Williams got the task done at a dermatology office in Fort Worth, Texas, where an electric rotary tool show like the other pictures show like a saw, like a bone saw. The electric rotary tool is used for her first nail cut since the early 90s. With or without my nails, I will still be the queen. My nails don't make me, I make my nails. Williams said she plans to only grow her nails about 6 inches, according to Ripley's Believe It or Not, which will display her trim nails at its museum in Orlando, Florida. So there's a trip for after the event is over. We can go down to Orlando and see her nails in a case. The record for the longest fingernails ever on a pair of female hands still belongs to Lee Redmond, who started to grow them in 1979. They reached a length of 28 feet, but Redmond lost them in an automobile accident in 2009, according to the Guinness. I'm sorry for laughing. That's...
Can you imagine? Bob, damn it!
I shared this, caught my eye with Bob, and he said, I'm surprised. Now, I don't mean to be crass, but he says, I'm surprised she didn't break her nails trying to wipe her ass. I mean, what can you do?
That's what I'm saying. How do you wipe your butt with that?
I don't know.
Or do anything. How do you eat with that? And so if you're watching this, and if you haven't, please do yourself a favor and go watch the video
on YouTube
and Facebook. John's got a picture of her sitting in this chair with a woman with this big heavy-duty Dremel with the mask on.
That's it. It's a Dremel. Yeah.
But the nails they look, well, it's just, you can't describe it, but I don't know how and then look at all the tin she has on her hand. How'd she get all that wrapped around? Did it have to go through all those nails?
Uh-huh. You mean the jewelry, the bracelets?
And is it on both hands?
Both hands, yeah.
So somebody has to feed her. How does she drive a car? She doesn't. How does she work? She can't type. She can't write.
I don't know.
Her tongue?
Do all you do is sit in a chair all day and people say, what are you doing? You're like, I'm growing the longest fingernails in the world for the Guinness Book of World. It's going to be in a museum in Orlando. You can go drive down and I mean, is that what you do? But
the hygiene thing is an issue to me. I mean, how do you comb your hair? How do you brush your teeth? How do you do any of the sort of hygiene things? How does she take care of herself in the front? How does she put her bra on?
All a mystery. The Pandora's box has been opened for us to investigate. I have no idea. I am just, yeah.
These are questions I would ask her. We should call her, get her on. I want to know how she takes care of her hooch and everything else.
I thought you'd appreciate that one, though.
Where did you find that? Was that
CNN,
in the
of all
Post or something?
things.
What?
CNN. Well, maybe the fake news network, CNN. Yeah.
CNN.
Yeah, and it popped up in a couple other places too, and one of them showed a close-up of the saw and how it had to go through the nail and how thick the nail was when it and how carefully they were when they removed it. I was like, oh boy, I had to stop there. You know.
I wonder what her toes look like.
Well, I don't believe she's growing those out, but I would not mind. Well, hey, that's where you have issue with things, right?
No, the toes are nasty.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So there you go. That was just for you, Mr. Bennett, on the anniversary of the formation of Triberry Productions.
Could have done a whole show on that. So as you know, I think we talked about this on our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, and which you can catch on Tuesdays. You go to focusgroupradio.com and you can find all of our media housed there, our podcast and our shows. I've been cleaning a lot, and there's a couple of things. I've thrown away, and you and I have discussed this, I've thrown away a lot of cards and letters over the years. And for some reason, I've kept, for the 4 years I was out at Marietta College in Ohio, I kept every single letter and card that I received and had them in a box.
I'm the same, by the way. I'm the same.
And I don't know why. I mean, it could be a John Hughes movie when I've started looking at these things. And I kind of got lost in it last weekend, and I pulled some things out. Some of the stuff was pretty scary in terms of the way I was reading it and some of the things that were discussed. But, you know, the great historian David McCullough, who, you know, had wrote about atoms and has wrote about the Brooklyn Bridge and the Wright brothers, he says that if you want to be famous 200 years from now, keep a diary. He said, because nobody writes anymore. He said, so the only way that historians write and learn about people is reading people's diaries and reading their mail. So this was interesting. So I went through a number of things, actually letters from you. I was surprised about the amount of letters I had from my grandparents, which I didn't pay attention to. I was also surprised about letters that had come from people's parents. I had letters from your sister, Laura.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had letters from people that I wasn't really that friendly with. And there were a couple of them were hilarious. For instance, I had one letter from this one girl that I was not friendly with at all and never liked her. Still to this day don't like her. And she had sent this Christmas card to me. Here's what it said. Tim, I had a card left over, so I thought I would send it to you. This was the Christmas card.
I have a card left over.
Yeah, I have it here.
I thought
I had one left over,
so
I thought I'd send it with you because I didn't want to keep it. If you don't want it, you can use it at the line of birdcage. And then she just put her name at the bottom. No Merry Christmas, no nothing. It was just. Can you imagine sending that out? I had one left over. I didn't want to keep it, so I thought I would send it to you. And to this day, I think she's an idiot. But she sent the card. Then I had one I found this letter. I've always loved this letter. And actually, he's passed away, and I was going to send it to his brother. So the letter goes on and on. But essentially, it says, hi, Tim. I'm writing to you because I owe you a letter, but I'm also grounded for 2 weeks and held prisoner in my bedroom. Chuck and Rhonda, he called his parents by their first names. Chuck and Rhonda are mad at me for buying my younger brother a Hustler magazine. They were more mad at me at that than me getting an F in English comp last semester. I want to tell you that I'm going to take a year off from Marietta and I'm going to be a river guide at the Grand Canyon. I know it's not crew, but it will be good for me, and I've always wanted to live out west. This is a way to do it and make some money and for me to decide what I want to do when I grow up. And then he goes on explaining.
Oh my God, that is a great one. That's well worth saving, in my opinion.
And I got one from a friend of mine. He says, he wrote this at Christmas time. He goes, I'm really bored sitting here as an intern for my dad's work, and I'm trying out the new typewriter. He says, I hope you're not stuck in a snowdrift up there in Connecticut. I hope you had a nice Christmas. He says, I got some new wave type clothing for Christmas and those inversion boots I kept talking about from American Gigolo.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the inversion boots. You know, the ones
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
hang
Richard
upside
Gere
down.
used to hang upside down and do his crunches. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting back to school. Can you do me a favor? He says, why don't you bring some new albums back to school and you can leave them in my room? Can you imagine asking somebody, bring some new albums back?
Just
and
throw
leave
them in my
my
room. Yeah.
Right. So then I laughed at that one. Another one. This came from a friend of ours' mother. This one has you in it, which I think is hilarious. She says, and you'll know the mom. I was happy to hear from you. Sounds like you're getting along well in Ohio. I find it quite funny that you went all the way to Ohio to hang out with the Litchfield County Preppy set. While John Nash, who I've often billed as a man of class and a class act himself, is hanging around the Brooklyn crowd.
Is that Mrs.
I saw him this weekend, but we didn't get to talk much because he fell asleep on the sofa. And she goes on and on.
I know who you're talking about, and we love her.
Isn't that hilarious?
The preppy crowd and the Brooklyn crowd.
She's went all the way to Ohio to hang out with the preppy, all the way to Ohio to hang out with the preppy crowd. Then there was one here from you. So my roommate, his brother was a musician. He says, I got the brand new Duran Duran album. It's called Rio. It's very hot. It's a 10. It's Trey danceable. Secondly, my brother just recorded the second Go-Go's album. His name's going to be included on it. He says a couple of those girls are lesbos. He also said they're shitty musicians. Bye for now. They're shitty musicians. Can you imagine?
I think, Tim, I'm sensing I should go through my letters as well. We could actually do a whole segment every week on this. This is hysterical. It's a time cap. You opened a time capsule, right?
Yeah. Then there's just one more. These came from the girls from work. I'm only sending this to you because the girls from work said that I had to do this as part of my work tonight. There's a new woman who started, and everybody seems to think, well, really just Eileen and Liz, that you're going to like her because she has a big chest. And I also wanted to tell you that you were right. Eileen is redoing your payroll, and you did have a raise, and you're going to be getting another check when you come home with additional dollars of $7.38. So,
that's got to be Baskin, right?
No, this was from Walden Books.
Walden, okay.
So I got $7.38 check. I was underpaid, John, from the raise. Can you imagine? All summer long, I was shorted $7.38. I think I got a 3-cent raise an hour. Can you imagine? And then there was a note from Mr. John Nash. This one I found hilarious. Of course, there were a lot of letters from you, John. This one in particular, I can't quite understand. You said there are a number of things we need to talk about. This was quite a long letter. But then you give me instructions on how I is to contact you. But you essentially said that I need to speak with you about a number of things. Remind me to tell you about what happened at the mall with the police. I got a fight with my roommate, and I got a lot of going on with that bit at UCLA. It's a real mess, et cetera, and only you can make me laugh about it, and I really need to laugh. So I need to speak with you. Please call me Thursday night at 11 o'clock, collect at, and you give me a number. If that number's busy, please try me at, you give me another number. If that number you can't get through, please leave me a message at this number. You give me another number. If that number doesn't work, please write me. But write me before the date you give it and that number. And then you say, well, write me anyway, because I want to talk to you. It's good to hear from you, your friend John. But you listed 6 numbers, all these different numbers. Remember, you and I had this whole deal, call, collect. You would call, collect, call back. So we had all these numbers. It was hilarious, all the different numbers.
We had a scheme going.
So those were the letters I had, which I thought were quite funny.
Brilliant. Thank you for those. I think we need to keep visiting those letters.
Maybe they went too long. So hey, those were some letters I found while cleaning, but I thought they were kind of funny, and some included you, which were great. Hey, thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. They've been with us here on the Focus Group, and they're a great partner of ours. Be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com and start clicking and start shopping away. What did you find this week, Mr. Nash?
Well, it's an under 10 sale, and that gives us the opportunity to buy things we might not have wanted checked out before or whatever. So I actually went with a movie that I've been meaning to see for a long time. It's called Looper, and it stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I love, Bruce Willis, Emily Blunt, who I adore, And it's directed by Rian Johnson, who did The Last Jedi and Knives Out. And it's a time movie where a hitman is sent back to kill his younger self to close a loop or something. But it's gotten good reviews, and I've always wanted to see it. And it's on sale for $6.96. I mean, how could you go wrong, right? It's like cheaper than a movie. So I picked Looper, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis and Emily Blunt, who we all love from The Devil Wears Prada, because she was the other assistant. Anyhow, what'd you pick?
I think you might have this. I picked Restricted Films of World War II.
No, I don't have this. This is
You don't have
cool.
this? And this is on DVD. It's $7.86. And so it was originally produced for U.S. generals and their staffs, and it's classified films that report on battles and weaponry and invasions and so forth. And because of the Freedom of Information Act, these are now cleared to be released, and it's put together in a documentary. And so it's previously unseen or unreleased material, and I think it's fascinating. If you're certainly a fan, or you know people who are fans of history and certainly the world wars, of how things were how things transpired, I think it would be a fascinating look at behind the scenes, really, of what transpired. So, Restricted Films of World War II is available at deep discount for under $10.
You know, we both picked things which were like $7 or $8. The World War II thing fascinates me because sometimes you come across films where they've colorized the black and white footage, and they found actual color footage. Really interesting. This is both good picks so far. And the release this week is a movie that I've seen a number of times, Mel Brooks's Spaceballs, starring John...
I laughed. Just the name, I laughed. Spaceballs.
John Candy, Rick Moranis, Bill Pullman, Daphne Zuniga, Dick Van Patten. I mean, it's Joan Rivers plays the voice of the robot, Dot. I mean, it's a send-up to Star Wars because there's this character called, a Yoda-like character played by Mel Brooks. It's the Schwartz. Instead of the Force, it's the Schwartz. Yeah. So, and I think on the list we got from Lauren, our marketing head over at Deep Discount, it says Spaceballs is the release of the week. It's on Blu-ray for $18.99, and she said, "Why not?" And I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Hey, so let's do a quick recap here. It's the under 10 sale over at Deep Discount. You get there by going to focusgroupradio.com. Click on the Deep Discount logo, which is a shark called Sharky. Arr! And you can start shopping, and there's a lot to find. So it's the under 10 sale. I picked a movie called Looper, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, and Emily Blunt. Tim picked something called Restricted Films of World War II, and the release this week is Spaceballs. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to have Business Birthday and Shop Talk, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Focus Group, and hello to our friends in Palm Springs. John, you and I need a trip to the Springs.
We love the Springs, and we've missed the Springs desperately. So yes, I agree with you. We do need a trip out there.
Well, I think what we're going to do is, and you and I have talked about this, and we keep threatening that we'll do the show from, maybe this winter we can do a couple of shows from Palm Springs, from the studios out there.
We'll do it from the iHub Network, yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Mm-hmm. I'm totally down with it, and John would love seeing us out there. So hello, Palm Springs, and hello. And iHub has... I think John said in a note recently that iHub's having an anniversary next week or the week after. We'll have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, now that we got our shots.
Yeah.
So, So, hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com to find out all the information about us, plus our podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, and all of our other media that's housed there, and where you can find it, as our imaging said, pretty much everywhere. So we have our business birthday today, which for the first time, I think, is not actually a person, but it's actually a corporation.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
This is a first for you, yeah.
It is a first, and I poked around. You know, sometimes these birthdays aren't easy to find. So
I don't know how you do it. I still don't know how you do it. It is the mystery of mysteries. It's kind of like at church when they turn the water to wine. Where's the business birthday come from?
Yeah, I know you think I dick around a lot, but the birthdays are, unfortunately, I've created this monster with these birthdays, and sometimes they do take. I curse myself because sometimes it takes a few days.
I
I've
don't
got to
doubt it.
spend it. I have to spend an hour, and then I do another sort of search because you just can't type in business birthday. You'll get nothing. Which is why you and I thought it'd be a great idea for a book, but people thought otherwise. Right?
Yeah, well, they had their thoughts. Let's
If
put it
you're a
that way.
publisher out there, John and I want to do a business birthday book.
We got
So
it all
if
figured
you'd
out.
like to, right? If you'd like to help us and do it for us, we'd be happy to do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay. So I poked around and poked around. There were a couple of boring people that had birthdays today that I didn't think were too exciting, but this popped up that in 1927, the very first Volvo came off the line in the assembly line, and they call it the birth of the Volvo car. So the 1927, 94 years ago today, April 14th, was the birth of Volvo. And I didn't realize Volvo is a huge corporation, the second largest transportation corporation in the world. I didn't realize that because they do an awful lot of heavy equipment, trucks, and rolling stock. I didn't realize they own Mack trucks. Did you?
I had no idea that. I wonder when they acquired that company. It had to be a while ago, right?
Yeah, they go through. There's a whole timeline. So obviously the cars is what we're focusing on today. But they have Mack truck. They have Renault. They have a Chinese company called Dongfeng. They have Nissan Diesel they had purchased. They've got a subsidiary with Isuzu. They've worked with Mitsubishi, Daimler Chrysler, at the time, Ford at one time. I mean, you name it, they've had some sort of relationship with them. But so on the car front, they, as I said, they started 1927 on April 14th. They rolled out the vehicle, and the whole reason they developed the cars initially, and this happened in Japan as well as how Subaru developed, is they wanted to develop a vehicle for the everyday people that could handle the harsh roads and the climate in Sweden. So in Japan, it was similar to Subarus were initially made to handle a lot of the power companies that needed to go in very rural areas. They developed these little four-wheel drive cars to get into put in power lines in rural areas. And so for Sweden, they wanted to develop this car that could handle a lot of the weather extremes, and that's what Volvo initially was made for the people to be able to have vehicles that could sustain the Swedish weather. So they, as I said, they started in 27. They're in Gothenburg, or they started in Gothenburg, Sweden, and they were independent. Well, not independent, but in 1999 they were sold to Ford Motor Company.
They were under the. Is that Tim? Was that under the Premier Auto Group, the PAG group, or was that? Did they bunch them in there later?
No, you're exactly right, John. So the division was placed under Ford's Premier Automotive Group, and if you remember, Volvo, Jaguar, Land Rover, Aston Martin, they moved them all from North Jersey out to California with Mazda. And Ford was going to create this Premier Automotive Group, which, as we know, was a huge failure. I don't know why these companies...
It was like GM moving their corporate headquarters for Cadillac to Tribeca.
Any moron knew that was a disaster, right? Well, our friend Tim said, don't unpack your boxes.
Yeah.
And told all the Detroit people that moved to Tribeca. First of all, people in New York City don't drive generally, right? So
if they do, they're driving out of town. They're getting in their cars and they're leaving to go somewhere, right?
It was the stupidity of when car companies decided to go get ad agencies in Madison Avenue, and nobody knew how to drive cars. All these kids that were working on these auto accounts, nobody ever drove a car or had a car, because you just don't in Manhattan a lot of times.
Mass transit.
You were one of the few people that had an auto.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm on a side bend here, but so they move all of these companies. So, and this was always a criticism of Subaru, for instance. Subaru was based on the East Coast, so it was an extra flight if you came from Japan to go all the way to New Jersey versus just stopping in California. Much easier flight. So what they've done to all the Europeans now, instead of flying to New York or to Newark, they now had to fly to California. So anyway,
double the time. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Ford moves them all the way out there. It was a huge disaster. So they end up selling in 2000, I believe it was 2010. Let me get the right here. So I had it here that they were bought by the Chinese.
That's right.
Volvo Cars was sold by the Chinese to Geely, Geely, became the largest shareholder, and they are now a Chinese-owned company. And they just also recently sold a lot of their wireless telematics technology to Volkswagen. And they were also doing some strategic alliances with Isuzu. And so they're still going full steam ahead. But the Volvo products are still I think they look a lot better than they used to. They're not so boxy and clumsy looking. I think the cars are a lot more sleek, and they do look quite nice. There's some rumor that a lot of them are going to be more electrified than they were. You know, the Chinese are way ahead of the rest of the world in terms of electrification. I think there's 20 automobile manufacturers, and a lot of them are more electric than any of the others in the world. So they've kind of jumped in that way ahead of everybody else.
So on the video, you had sent me a little picture, which was small, and it was about something about Volvos being boxy. And if anybody remembers a Dudley Moore, Daryl Hannah movie called Crazy People.
Yeah.
He is an advertising executive that has a nervous breakdown, and he goes to a place to recuperate, and he gets everybody in the facility to join him to create ads, honest ads. Think of this, Madison Avenue, honest ads. So he invites some of his former ad execs to visit the facility, and they show a campaign for Volvo, and I put it up here, and it's buy Volvos. They're boxy, but they're good. Another one he showed, which I didn't put up here, was a picture of a United Airlines jet which had landed somewhere, and it was missing half the cabin. It said, "Fly United, you might get there." And so everybody's sitting in the audience as he's revealing his honesty and advertising thing, and they're all flipping out. But they all flipped out over they're boxy, but they're good, and they'll save your life. Yeah.
I always remember that joke, but Rip Taylor did a joke about Delta Airlines. He said, "You know what Delta stands for?"
Oh, wait. Don't. All right, go ahead. Tell me.
Don't ever leave the airport.
I knew it was something like that. Don't ever.
But there's always those horrible, like NASA. That was the other one. You know what NASA stands for? Remember that one? After the Challenger disaster.
No, it was.
It was horrible. Need another 7 astronauts.
Oh. By the way, when the Challenger accident happened, I would say within a day or two, that kind of sick. What do I want to call it? Dark humor was circulating, and at the time, a lot of those jokes would originate on the stock floor. All the traders, where are the astronauts vacationing this summer? All over Florida. It was, and it's a weird thing, right? But that's what would pop up.
I'll always remember that day. It was my first day at work as a district manager with a car, and I had to take the engineers to SKF Aerospace in Lansdowne, PA. Mm-hmm. And I've told you that story where I took them to SmithKline French, the pharmaceutical company.
And the good-hearted receptionist was like, "Are you sure you're in the right place?"
Yeah, which is funny because so Volvo is a subsidiary of SKF Ball Bearings. So that's actually where Volvo started. The company Volvo started as a ball bearing company. Do you know what Volvo means? It's actually a Latin word. You're the SAT boy, John.
Volvo. It has to.
Did you take Latin?
No, my niece Emma did. If she were sitting right here, she'd get it right away. So what does it mean?
So it's conjugated from the word. I don't know Latin, but I think volvere, which means to roll or I roll.
Okay, all right. I thought roll or circle was in there somewhere, but that was taking a while.
You're full baloney.
No, I was taking a guess. If I were on Jeopardy, I would have guessed, something about a wheel.
Would you? Vol. Yeah, I guess you would have, right? Okay, Volvo. I roll. So that's where the name came from. So when they sold, so they did sell in 2000. So Ford sold in 2010 to the Chinese, to Geely.
Oh yeah, you talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, 1.4 billion. And at the time, in 2019, when they did a study, they said that Volvo, I did not realize this, was more respected as a luxury car brand globally than Lexus or Infiniti. I was surprised about Lexus.
I'm not surprised by your stat there. I wholly accept that as a fact. Because Volvo's been around. Lexus was later than Volvo. Volvo was the thing, right?
Yeah, well, we used to always joke about Lexus that it was a Camry with a cup holder.
By the way, this is exactly what went down you'd visit Tim at Subaru or with some of these car companies, and all good-natured, like that one guy who said, Subaru, they make a nice little wagon.
Make a nice little wagon. Where do you work? I work at Subaru. You make a nice little wagon.
Yeah, this is some guy from GM, and they make I don't know how many cars they had at the time.
Boil it down to nothing. Happy birthday, Volvo. So that's That's our business birthday today. So, at the beginning of the show, John had found this article we're going to handle in Shop Talk today, and I thought it was pretty cool. We do an awful lot of career stuff here on the show, and this one is more about retirement. And John and I have talked about retirement a lot, and we've always asked this question about, hey, when should you take Social Security? Should you take it right away when you turn and you're eligible, or should you wait to get the full benefit? And John had found this article. I think that it came from CNBC, John.
Yep.
And essentially the headline says just 3% of near retirees can correctly answer all of these Social Security benefit questions. So there were 12 questions that were done by Mass Mutual. And rather than giving the exact percentages of who guessed what, maybe we'll go through the 12 questions and do the true false and do it that way, or how do you want to handle it?
Let's do that. I want to say that was it my understanding that the number has shifted a bit in terms of people not being able to answer this correctly? Like their understanding of Social Security is even worse than it might have been, or am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. I think overall they said that so the 3% number of the people who were able to answer all 12 questions, which would be pretty tough. I think that's a pretty tough. The questions are not real difficult, but to answer all 12 correctly, I think would be.
Well, how many did you get right when you did it?
I think I got all but 2. I think there were 2 that I was a little bit.
I got 10 out of 12, and the 2 that I didn't get, I had never even heard of. So
yeah, I was in the same boat. But the simple ones, obviously, we can get. But I think what was the issue? They said that it was. We all know that if you take your Social Security early, you're not going to get your full benefit. Right. I mean, that's pretty basic. I think most people know that one. But then beyond that, you don't know.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. All right, so let's take it from the top. Question number 1. If I take benefits before my full retirement age, they will be reduced for early filing. And I think you were
true
just...
or false?
It's true, because you were just talking about that. If you take them before you're vested, or like some people are 65, some are grandfathered at 66, whatever it is, but your benefit prior to that will be reduced if you take it before your age of retirement. What's our second?
And they said 94% of the people
got that right.
Got that right. Number 2, if I am receiving benefits before my full retirement age and I continue to work, my benefits might be reduced based on how much I make.
That is definitely true. Yeah, because we've heard that when seniors take jobs because they want to get out of the home, or they just want to, do things, they have to be really careful about how much they make, because if it bumps up into that threshold, it may actually reduce their benefit. Once I start collecting Social Security, my benefit payments will never change. And that is a big false. Your payments can change over time, correct?
Yeah, they do change. And isn't also changes based upon what Congress decides too? Doesn't Congress sometimes give a raise to retirees?
Cost of living increase is typical for that, yeah.
Number 4, if I have a spouse, he or she can receive benefits from my record, even if he or she has no individual earnings history. So that one is true if you're married.
And that surprised me, yeah.
So why did that surprise you, you think?
Well, I always think in terms of each person being a taxpayer putting into the system, but the government looks, and that's one of the interesting things about marriage as a secular contract, or a contract that the government recognizes, is they see this as saying the spouse is married to, you're married, which means you're earning, which means you're in a household, and that's how they are allowed to say this, you can receive based on the other one's earnings.
Right.
If a spouse, if I have a spouse and he or she passes away, I will receive both my full benefit and my deceased spouse's full benefit. This one I knew right away. This is a false. What happens in Social Security is if one of the two passes away, the higher of the two benefits is paid to the remaining spouse.
Right. So that if you were both together and you both were collecting, and then one happens to pass away, then say you were the lesser amount, but your spouse passed away, then you could then collect
the higher
his
amount.
or her,
yeah.
the higher. I think that's pretty
Makes
good.
Makes sense. You're not getting both, but you're getting the higher of the two. Yeah.
All right. Number 6, the money that comes out of my paycheck for Social Security goes into a specific account for me, and remains there, earning interest until I begin to receive Social Security benefits. Oh, you of little knowledge.
That is so false.
I know. I mean, that one is just almost
that's
like,
a ringer, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't even think we need to go beyond that one. What's number 7?
Under current Social Security law, full retirement age is 65 no matter when you were born. Now, I just referenced this a moment ago, and that is false. Depends on your age. The Congress has changed the retirement age a number of times to adjust the Social Security Trust Fund, which, like the previous question, that's where your money actually goes into a trust fund, which Congress usually uses as kind of a rainy day or a coffee fund, right? Take money out, put money in.
I'm kind of confused. So for us, is it
66?
Because I know, when are we?
We are 66. Or 66 and a half or 67, but we are definitely not 65.
No?
No. And in fact, I think depending on your...
What would our parents have been?
65.
That was our parents?
Mm-hmm, it was their generation. They shifted the age, they moved it, they bumped it by a year. And just doing that one thing, adjusting that one thing, changed the entire formula for Social Security and the trust fund, and they were able to say, oh, we're solvent again. So... yeah. So you could go online and check this out, by the way. Like I signed up at Social Security Administration. It's very secure. You can actually go in, and if they've missed data on years that you worked, but they have no data that you put into it, you can actually correct the record and get your benefit changed. But it will actually show you retirement ages, 62, full retirement, 70, 71, whatever. And you and I have talked about this a lot. There are some people who would argue that as soon as you can take it, just take it. And that would be what they mean by that. When someone says, as soon as you can take your retirement benefit, take it, they mean the age of retirement, 65 or 66.
No, my friends are my friends. People tell me to take it at 62.
And there are some good math. There are some charts that show you that if you take it at 62, there's going to be a point in your 70s or early 80s when the amount of money you would have gotten out of the system by taking it at 60 at your retirement age or 62 will equal the same thing. So why not take it as soon as you can? Is that what you're getting at?
Right, because the you're then playing the tables, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So that it eventually will cross over, and then you would lose money at, say, 82. But you could also get sick or get hit by a car between then, so might as well take the money. So, but what's her name? That one with the blonde hair, the lesbian. She always tells you to wait. Susie Orman.
Susie Orman, yeah. Are you talking about the actuarial tables, the ones?
Yeah, the actuarial.
Yeah, the ones that indicate how the average age of a male. You know, the whole. Yeah. All right, where were we? Go ahead.
So the next one, number 8. As a divorced person, I might be able to collect Social Security benefits based on my ex-spouse's earning history.
I answered this false. Did you say false?
Yeah, I got this wrong.
And it's true.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
That was an eye-opener for me. I was like, wow. But again, it probably goes back to that earlier question about if I wasn't working and my husband was or my spouse was. Yeah, that's interesting. So 9, under current law, Social Security benefits could be reduced for everyone in 2035. And this is most certainly true. In fact, they need to really address the Social Security system at some point in time because everyone's benefits going to be reduced if they don't do something. But yeah, law says at 2035 they're able to fiddle around with it even more.
Ugh. Number 10, if I file for retirement benefits and have dependent children age 18 or younger, they also may qualify for Social Security benefits. I got this wrong as well. That's true.
I know. This was another one that I was. This is why when people are nearing their retirement age, it's so smart for you to try to get a consultant or to actually speak to someone at Social Security Administration. It is a very complex program, and they'll walk you through it. But that's a new one on me, the children, right? I was surprised by that.
Well, I don't understand what the children would get. Would they get the same sort of benefit, or is it? I don't know what they would get.
Maybe it's like some kind of a dependent supplement or something. I'd have to look into that. Number 11 was if I delay taking Social Security beyond benefits past the age of 70. So 70 is when they really say if you hold out, you're going to get the max number. I will continue to get delayed retirement credit increases each year I wait. That's false. Basically, the numbers and the data are set up that if you don't take it at retirement age, every year that you wait, you'll get a higher benefit. But once you hit 70, the benefit is just going to be the benefit at that higher number.
Yeah. And then the last one, I must be a U.S. citizen to collect Social Security retirement benefits. And that is false.
Surprise, I got that wrong.
I got that wrong too. So my grandparents they were Canadian citizens. They came to the U.S. My grandfather became a U.S. citizen. My grandmother kept her Canadian citizenship. They went back to Canada and retired, and my grandfather remained Canadian. My grandfather remained a U.S. citizen, but he'd worked in the United States all of his adult life, and so he collected Social Security because he worked in the U.S. and was a U.S. citizen still. But he was also able to collect a Canadian pension. The Canadians are very generous that way. And my grandmother, of course, had a Canadian pension. But I thought that if I didn't think he would be able to. My grandmother, I didn't think would be able to collect Social Security.
No. That's a new one on me. And again, the reason we liked this article and wanted to talk about it on Shop Talk today is depending on where you're at in the flow and where you're at with retirement planning and thinking. These are some interesting things to puzzle about, especially if you think maybe I want to get off the train a little bit early or maybe I want to wait longer. I'm now of the opinion that I'm going to take it as soon as I humanly can.
So at 62?
Well, I'm thinking about that or possibly later because you look at the actuarial tables, most men don't, well, let's just stop right there. We're going to have long lives, but I'd rather get the money out that I put in. How's that sound?
I'm taking it at 62, Nash. Here's why.
You got 1 minute and 7 seconds.
Well, no, say the crossover is 10 years later and it's,
got it.
So you get the money and, you're not doing a lot at 82.
I agree. You could be, but yeah. All right, folks. So there you go. Social Security demystified a little bit with a 12-point quiz, which both of us got 2 wrong and the rest right. And let's see how you do. Well, you got the answers because you've been listening to us. But again, the advice would be if you're nearing that age, talk to somebody at Social Security Administration, see what all the ins and outs are. So we want to thank you for joining us today. And by all means, check out the Focus Group Unbuttoned on Tuesdays. It's our audio podcast, 3 topics. We're in, we're out. It's pretty quick, sometimes political. Thanks to Deep Discount, it's the 10 Under sale. I picked Loopers. Tim picked a great movie about a collection of previously classified World War II videos and images. And the release this week is Mel Brooks' Spaceballs. So everybody mask up, stay safe, and we're going to see you in the new one. And again, thanks for spending time with us.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.